Yes, I know. And yes, you read that title correctly. And yes, you read the thumbnail correctly. This is a video detailing the biases and favoritism displayed by everyone's favorite princess, Charlie Morningstar. Now firstly, before we get into the subject matter of the video, I feel it important to note that I have no issue with Vivzie Pop as a writer or as a person. I'm in fact a big fan of these shows, and I'm a big fan especially of the lore between them. My criticism here is something I simply am pointing out. Something that I hope opens a dialogue. Hopefully. Now before we fully get into what I'm going to be discussing, let me make perfectly clear, I do not hate Charlie as a person. I think Charlie is one of the bestest, nicest girls in the entire verse, and I will die on that hill, swear to Viv. However, this writing decision, whether intentional or not, is something I do not particularly agree with, especially with her character. For context, note that in episode 1 of Has Been Hotel, it is made clear to us by Loot that Charlie is in fact a Hellborn, and not in fact a sinner, and as such, they are not her actual people, the sinners I mean. And this is something that she likes to drone on about, that they are her people, when in reality, she is a Hellborn. Now, this video wouldn't exist if the crucial detail wasn't made evident in episode 1 of Has Been Hotel, the term Hellborn. Charlie is presented to us as this morally virtuous, holier-than-thou character who is selflessly doing whatever she can to help her people. That's people with quotation marks, because keep in mind that she is stated as fact a Hellborn. Now, where am I going with this? I hear you typing. The fact that the term Hellborn can be used in Has Been Hotel is the key to this. When Charlie discusses her people, she is referring to the sinners, who I have elaborated on are technically not her people, while the Hellborns are technically her people. So anytime Charlie uses the terminology people, she doesn't refer to the Hellborn, as they aren't the subject matter of Has Been Hotel. This is where the issues began to arise for me. It'd be easy to make the connection that her not referring to the Hellborn as part of her people is her looking down on them, like the Goetia and certain members of the Seven Deadly Sins do. But I don't see it that way. It can be seen that way, of course, and if you choose to observe it that way, then that's fine. I'm not going to stop you. For me, her separating sinners and Hellborn shows a clear and obvious bias for one over the other. The fact that the term Hellborn can be used in Has Been Hotel and yet never had Charlie discussed it once is the issue that spawned this video for me. She never makes it clear, never makes note that she wishes to help the Hellborn or plan to help them at all after she finishes helping the sinners and stopping the exterminations. If there was a line of dialogue that articulated such a thought, this video wouldn't exist. This bias and favoritism she shows began to get a lot worse for me, as I had realized a month or two ago that the sinners only really have to fear the extermination one day out of the year, while Hellborns are forsaken to the societal oppression they're dealt the minute they're born into the hell, and up until their final breath. This gets even worse when you piece together that the Hellborn only get one life to live, and seemingly have no afterlife waiting for them as far as we've been made aware. And unlike the sinners, they are not immortal. And even more so, they don't get a second life like the sinners either. They get one life. Aside from fearing extermination one day out of the year, the sinners are basically left to do whatever they want for the entirety of 364 days of the year, with no oversight, no governance over them aside from maybe the overlords, while the Hellborn are offered no such freedom. Charlie prioritizes the problem she can't fix over the problem she could fix if she acted as her title suggests. This creates an issue someone pointed out to me on Reddit when I raised this exact concern a few weeks or months ago by this point, that this is all in fact a trolley problem for Charlie, and neither option is preferable. She either saves the natives of Hell, the Hellborn, who only have one life to live, exercising her authority as princess to attempt to bring equality in whatever form it may take, or she tries to negotiate with outside forces beyond her control in an attempt to persuade them to stop doing what they've already been doing for presumably centuries by this point. This bias shown to the sinners could be seen as a result of the storybook her mother presumably read to her as a child, and something she keeps with her into adulthood. If this is the case, then they should make it evidently clear at some point in either show that Charlie is biased and does show favoritism, cause as many have stated to me before, the hotel isn't meant for the Hellborn, and they're correct, it isn't for the Hellborn, and that's part of the problem. The hotel is aimed solely at the sinners, and what considerations do the Hellborn get? Nothing. Within the context of Charlie being a Hellborn and princess of all hell, someone who claims to care about helping others, it comes across as a bit disingenuous when Hellborns have it far worse than sinners, which I believe is kinda wrong considering the amount of freedom and status sinners have in hell, being placed immediately above all Hellborn species in the hierarchy of hell the moment they incarnate into hell. Hellborns, who I remind you have only one go at life as far as we've been made aware of, and are used and discarded and worked to death their entire lives for their specific industry, and who, mind you, die a lot easier than sinners do. Allow me to elaborate. Imps, the biggest victims of this oppression, are treated as second-class citizens and worked to death in greed and wrath, and presumably everywhere else they can find work. And given the oppression dealt onto them for as long as it's been dealt onto them, they have all developed an issue of self-worth, feeling like less because of the society they are born to and how it treats them. Then there's the Hellhounds, who are treated just as bad, if not worse than imps, being kept in cages like they committed some sort of crime for 18 years of their lives before they're either put down or let out onto the streets. I'll let you decide which is worse. And the only crime they committed was being born into a society that couldn't accommodate them and their rapid growth of their population. Baphomets and infestor possessor demons don't seem to have it as bad, but we haven't seen their rings enough to make any concrete conclusions just yet. We have only visited Sloth once, and we've only visited, we visited it twice, and we've never once visited Envy. Next are the Loan Sharks, who are all basically criminals in the greed ring, and can't do anything about it, as committing crime is presumably the only way they make a living, considering who runs the ring. The only Hellborn races that flourish in hell are the aristocratic Goetia, the succubi of who have it pretty good, though, thanks to, Osmodeus. But my point is, Charlie, a Hellborn, ignores the unquantifiable societal oppression of the many for the one-a-day suffering of the few. Charlie, who, being the Princess of Hell, has the royal authority to change things, does nothing to help the Hellborn, which in my eyes at least, makes her disingenuous or hypocritical. I understand her aversion to using her royal power, but as a wise man, an old man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, I did quote Uncle Ben. The point of this quote, as well as my thoughts is that those in power with authority and influence like Charlie has as the Princess of Hell, have a moral responsibility to use that power for the benefit of others. That someone like her, she should stand against the aristocratic parliamentary democracy of hell that we have been introduced to, and use her power for the best possible future for hell. Not just for the sinners, but for the Hellborn, who suffer just as much, just not at the end of a blade. Yet despite how I feel, Charlie, with absolute authority over Hell as princess, placed over the sins and Goetia within the hierarchy by Vivian herself, takes no responsibility for the power and authority she wields, which has created the society that oppresses the natives of Hell, while she shifts all her focus to the outsiders of Hell, the ones not native to Hell. While I have other criticisms about Charlie, the issues I have presented here are the ones I find the most alarming, as Charlie, the morally virtuous character, has shown a clear bias favoritism for the sinners, while offering no indication she longs to help the Hellborn. I find it to come across as disingenuous, biased, and ignorant. All things I hope are reflected in the, thumbnail for the video. I know there will be people who disagree with my opinion on this, and that's fine, but I'd rather share how Charlie comes across in the grand scheme of things at present, rather than sit in silence while something like this goes overlooked. To conclude, I don't hate Charlie as a character, and I don't think she ignores the Hellborn with malicious intent, but I can't excuse the bias and favoritism on display either. A lot of essayists that have covered the show never happened to cover this particular issue I've had towards Charlie, so I wanted to share my concerns in the hope that we can create a healthy dialogue. I don't dislike the shows, but I'm not above admitting they have problems, but being the true fan that I like to think I am, I look past the problems, because I enjoyed the shows. I enjoyed the lore, the music, the characters to some extent. I have other videos I want to make as well, and, thought I'd start with one of the most hot takes I've got, so people can, share their opinion on it and stuff. Feel free to share your opinion in the comments if you agree or disagree, and if you're feeling generous, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be seeing you guys again real soon, hopefully with a video that's a bit less critical to the show. With that, I see myself out.